wanted to ask you
Mhm.
about the bird tribe.
Our world goes through a golden age every great year, which is about a 24 to 26,000 year cycle. And
Hmm.
so within that great year, there's inevitably going to be a golden age all the way down to the dark ages and back up
Hmm.
again over the course of a 26,000 year cycle. So the last time that we had that fall, that descent from whatever previous golden ages that there were, I mean,
Hmm.
people talk about Atlantis, people talk about Lemuria.
Yeah,
You know, there's a lot of ancient structures all over the world that,
and underwater too that we haven't even found yet. But yeah.
and in the oceans, yeah, that indicate that
Hmm.
there were very advanced civilizations that probably had the ability to travel the globe. So
Hmm.
sometime since then, we descended cyclically as we do. And during that time, humans became over-identified with the world of form, with
Yeah.
ego. The ego does not run the show, but we started to forget that the ego is a great servant to the
Hmm.
spirit. And we started to think that the ego is running the show. And so we became very over-identified with lower vibrations like fear, jealousy,
Hmm.
hatred, aversion, all kinds of things that lead to greater
Shiny
suffering.
objects, technology. I mean, not. I mean, the kind of technology that we're using right now, but also, things that serve as a just another way to be addicted to escapism, to escape your life. That's where technology, I think, runs us into trouble. But yeah, I think it was all there. I think it was all there, and it still is somewhere. I think there's places we haven't discovered where some of the evidence of this is really fully intact, and there's other places where there's pieces, and we find pieces here and there, and then we write them off, or we, I always love, Greg Braden talks about all the objects that he'll go and study that are out of time. They're obviously, they're 40,000-year-old gear that they found, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is there a cog from a machine from 40,000 years ago? How is it? How do you explain that? How do you write that off? But of course, we do that really well. We write things off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during that period of time of forgetting our connection to higher consciousness, as the story goes, the bird tribes literally could not um, resonate in this world of form, and so they left. Our higher consciousness left, but there was always an understanding that they would return at a particular time, um, and so that time is now essentially.
Hmm.
We're going through huge awakenings and growing pains as we're midwifing into a different level of kind of
I
collective.
love how you put that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, as we're kind of
Labor
going through
pains.
a global initiation into higher consciousness. It's like we're on a global vision quest, or it's like
Yeah.
we're all in the chrysalis together. I mean, especially this year of quarantine and everything that's going on with COVID and all of that. I do see us all like we're in this kind of chrysalis,
Yeah.
and we're slowly, at that time, the imaginal cells come online and they activate when enough of them. At first, they're attacked by the main. So when let me
Yeah. We're seeing a
rewind.
lot of that now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Ah.
So when a caterpillar goes in a chrysalis state, as its old structures begin to decay, the imaginal cells come online. And at first, they are attacked by the rest of the organism. And then when enough of them connect, they actually inject a whole new blueprint into the genetic directory of the organism.
Hmm.
And out of the old decaying soup of the old organism, they start to create a whole different organism with wings that can fly.
Hmm.
And I don't know what stage collectively we're at in that whole process, but the end result is we're going to be a completely transformed, metamorphosized global culture. And I
Yeah.
guess you could say that when that happens, that would be the full embodiment of the return of the bird tribes.
Yeah.
Ken Carey, the author of that book, says that it's in this lifetime that the bird tribes have the ability to become fully incarnated in the world of form, in our actual temple physical bodies. So it's
Wow.
really about embodying higher consciousness in this realm and
Hmm.
utilizing that awareness in expression and embodiment of all of the deepest wisdom, traditions, and values, compassion, service to others, always, on the path
Absolutely.
of self-mastery, and becoming aware of how we relate to Mother Earth, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to one another, and moving towards sustainability.
Yeah.
So,
And this is what I'm, my children are 6 and 9, and my 9-year-old is, I mean, he's pretty amazing in his understanding and his intuition and sensitivity, but he gets caught up on the whole superhero thing, and then
oh, yeah.
he starts to mix that with, everything I teach him about spirituality and the dimensions and the celestial ancestors of ours. And he's like, so when am I going to get my superpowers? And I'm like, you mean like you want to fly around and have like skin that doesn't get hurt and all that? And he's like, yeah. He's like, so like, what do I have to do? And I was like, well, you have to start being really compassionate to your little brother. Is what you have to do. I was like, you got to really start practicing, man. And he looked at me and I'm like, I'm serious. Unconditional love and compassion are the first steps that you take to your superpowers, to all your gifts that you have to unlock, and he just looked at me like, yeah, I know I need to get back on that. But I teach my kids that too. And I believe that. Absolutely, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool.
And how that all relates to the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, so very much related to that. The eagle, the bird, represents the nations, the Western world. It represents the technological worldview, the
United States.
the masculine, the mind. The condor represents the indigenous worldview in cosmovision. It represents the heart, it represents the feminine. And so within that book and other versions and expressions of this prophecy, there was an awareness among native nations in all over the world, and definitely specifically within the Americas, North, Central, and South. There was a coming time when there was actually going to be an almost full destruction of the nations of the condor as a result of the imbalance, and the nations of the eagle would be the ones doing that. But then after a 500-year period would come the time where the condor and the eagle could fly together again. And so that is about the harmony of the contemporary modern worldview with these native traditions and worldviews. It's about the merging of science and spirituality. It's about the harmony and the balance of duality, of masculine and feminine, mind and heart. And so the idea is that we cannot move forward into the next expression, the return of the bird tribes, emerging from the chrysalis, creating a sustainable global culture, until, like, we cannot do that with just the modern contemporary industrial technological worldview alone.
No.
We cannot do that from just the traditional indigenous worldviews alone either, but there's got to be somewhere where science and spirituality meet together that allows that new world to take place. So
I mean, and I believe you're seeing it happen. It's being rolled out, and as much as people want to dismiss some of it as woo-woo, then when the scientists come and say, yeah, but look at this, here's your woo-woo under a microscope. I love that. I love when that happens, because it's a new perspective for people. And it's true, like, when science catches up with spirituality and the two blend, I really think that's when you'll really start to see our wings sprout. I believe that. I believe it right across the board, as far as our understanding of medicine, science, physics, you name it, communication. That's so cool, man. I love that. The lore of the eagle and the condor, it's so powerful, and there's so much symbolism in it, and that's going on and kind of having it out right now, I think, in a lot of ways.